is Representative Massie of Kentucky for 5 minutes. Representative Massie.
Thank you, Chairman Larson. I'd like to ask
Mr. Massie, could you try your volume, and we'll try on our end to increase your volume as well. Thank you.
All right, can you hear me?
A little better, thank you. Yeah.
All right, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to submit to the record 2 articles from NPR. The first one is from August 5th, titled "Foreign Workers Living Overseas Mistakenly Received $1,200 U.S. Stimulus Checks." And the second article is "IRS Says Its Own Error Sent $1,200 Stimulus Checks to Non-Americans Overseas."
Without objection.
Mr. Horwitz, I want to focus on these stimulus checks that were sent overseas to folks that weren't American citizens. These articles were from last year, but disturbingly, not only were the $1,200 checks sent, I'm aware of a situation where somebody who hasn't even worked in the United States since the 1970s received not just the $1,200 check, but the $600 check and the $1,400 check. This individual does not file a U.S. tax return. And so there was no way to know whether the individual even met the constraints or requirements on income in order to receive these checks. Can you tell me what the IG's office has done to investigate these?
Yes, Congressman. So last year, for example, the tax IG that oversees the IRS issued a report outlining a series of problems with payments by the agency of stimulus checks. And the GAO actually reported on that as well last year, and outlined some of the matching that failed to occur at the IRS and with sending out the stimulus checks. I'd have to follow up with the tax IG about what ongoing work they may have done with regard to the subsequent checks that have been sent out. I'm not familiar, frankly, as I sit here today, with the ongoing work, and I believe GAO may have some follow-up work as well in that space.
Okay, if you could send those to my office, I'd appreciate it as it comes out in real time. I'm afraid, since all 3 checks went to the particular person that I'm aware of, and that this person does not file a U.S. tax return. This person actually worked in the United States in the late 60s and early 70s. And for that reason is somehow in the database. This person does not file a U.S. tax return. This person does not have a green card. This person is not a U.S. citizen or a dual citizen of the United States. And I would hope that we have the measures in place to keep this money from going to these individuals. Or maybe Congress needs to acknowledge that they wrote a law that sends money overseas to people who aren't citizens. One of 2 things is true. We are either sending money to people who don't qualify on the income level, and people who don't file tax returns, people who don't work in the United States, people who don't live in the United States. That's the other thing. These checks are going to foreign addresses. I would hope that would be a trigger to do a check to see if this person is a citizen, if we're sending it to a foreign address. Maybe we should check to see if they filed a tax return. I know people didn't get, U.S. citizens who didn't get checks. Some still haven't gotten their checks, who are U.S. citizens, and it had something to do with their tax return. Yet this didn't keep people who are foreign nationals from getting these checks, who don't file tax returns, haven't filed tax returns in in at least 40 years. So I hope we'll keep a check on that, and I don't want to take any more of your time, and I appreciate you looking into it. And I'll yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.